5, 8. May not be as pretty, but it saved a lot of time. These are my backed sheets.
Okay.
So
We are on the air.
I'm ready. Oh, I'm on. We are ready. Would you advance the slide one, please, Shivi? Oh, that's not very visible. Okay, well, that's an outline of what we're doing tonight. We'll have an opening prayer, and then I have some introductory material after Cynthia says a few things, and then we're going to get into talking about dreams and how our dreams can come to fruition, structural topics, and how this all actually can take place. So that's enough. Anyway, oh well. So Cynthia, you're up.
Thank you all. Some of you have already attended another conference today, and you're back for your second one. And others of you who have been out in the world, being the body of Christ. Some of you are watching from home this evening. I want to thank all of you for coming and your participation, that we join our hearts and minds. So let us now join in prayer. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Thank you. Gracious God, we give you thanks that you have chosen of your free will to dwell with us and in us and through us, and that through us your desires are manifest. So we ask that you will be with us this evening powerfully, that we will feel your presence, and that we might listen with ears and hearts open to receive the words that you are speaking this evening. Guide us and direct us, because this evening we prepare to take the next step. We simply ask that you shine the light and show us the way. Amen.
So we're basically continuing on from what we did in March, where close to 75 people came up with a lot of ideas, and then we summarized them, combined a few, but trying not to lose anything. And we've sent that lengthy list out a couple of times. If you need one to refer to that has everything on it, we have about 15 copies in the back if you need it during this evening. The goal is to take that list after we talk a little bit more about how we go forward and see what you all might have a dream to participate in, and then we'll take it from there. I'm going to show the same list, but on boards across the pews, that when we get ready to do it, you'll be able to come up and look at them. Nobody has to make a commitment to anything tonight, but it's hopefully going to get you engaged in the process, and maybe even more new ideas. I've left space on the versions that'll be posted up here to add additional items, one of which I just heard today. And also question and answers at any time. It's conversational, and if you have comments, if you have thoughts or things that relate to what we're doing. This isn't the Cynthia and Allison show. So that's what we hope will happen this evening. My brain isn't working real well right now, but bear with me. I know. I need to remind you that when you have something to say, you cannot say, "Oh no, I don't need a mic." You have to wait for the mic to come. That's about the only rule that I know of that we have. And the reason for that is because, like last time, I know for a fact there are people who are in the meeting by stream. And for them to be able to be fully participating and knowing what's being said, the only way they can hear you, or me, or Cynthia, or anybody, is if you're on a mic. How'd I do? Was that good? Okay. So right now, Cynthia has a few things that she wants to share with us, having to do, well, some of them have been raised as questions. But as we have these opportunities to re-engage and get back to more things happening and ministry at the church, we have to do more than just come up with good ideas. So some questions have been raised about, well, how do these things happen? What's the structure? Who do I get permission from? Et cetera, et cetera. So she is going to talk with us a little bit about all of those things.
Right, in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk about all of those things because we have so many other things to do. I'm so glad that you made a point of mentioning that this is a conversation. This is a conversation. This is very much a dialogue. And it's very much a dialogue that is not over tonight, but will continue on. We talk about the speaking God always speaking, and the people of God always listening. And our faith is simply saying, "Here I am, Lord," as we hear the Lord speaking. One of the things I think that is very important, as we lift up out of COVID, as we joyfully are restored back into community again, and already now as people are getting their vaccinations, and you're saying, "Okay, are you covered right now?" "Oh yeah, I'm covered. I'm covered too. Let's hug. I haven't hugged you since last Christmas," right? That's a joy. So one of the things that's getting ready to happen is we are getting ready to come back together as family and catch up and touch one another and hug one another. And we look forward to that in coming weeks. The preschool received an email just yesterday saying that their health department has loosened the restrictions on what it is that they can be doing. So there are these signs all the time that we are indeed in the twilight of COVID. We will be reconvening. There is work that has been going on the entire time that we've been in this hiatus of COVID. We have staff and leaders who have been going through trainings and cohorts. I'm going to show you a little bit of the work that our family life cohort has been doing. They've been asset mapping and discovering just who we are in our neighborhood and mapping out our neighbors and our neighborhood. But this is not for the sake of strategic plan, nearly as much as it is for the sake of becoming better informed of who we are and who is around us. I do not want anybody ever to feel compelled to do something they do not feel called to do. But what I do want us to do as a community of faith, as a family of faith, as a church, is be preparing ourselves to say, "Yes, Lord, I do hear, and I will go," or "I will do." We simply are called to say yes to the things that God speaks to us to do. So how is that going to work in this family as we are church here? A lot of work has been done at Universal City United Methodist Church. One of the things I've had a chance to do in this hiatus is read through files. And I have done quite a lot of reading over the course of the months that I have been here. And I have a pretty good grip, I think, of the history of recent years. And I know that you all have been making surveys, doing interviews and surveying one another. I know that you have been out in the neighborhood and knocking on doors. There's a lot of very good work that has already been done. So now, as we take a deep breath and get ready to pick up and move forward, not the way things were, but in the new things and the way things will become, is to take that good information that has made us so much smarter than we used to be about who we are and who our neighbors are, and figure out how it is that we will be the church in this neighborhood where we have chosen to stay. So, if God is speaking to your hearts and minds, and there is something that stirs in you, something that you want to do, what we want to do is enable and empower you for saying, "Yes, Lord, here I am." We have a structure where we have a governance board, and they offer stability and support for the work of the church. We have the SPRC, which is very involved in staffing and policy manuals and creating that kind of structural support. We have finance and all of the things that go on in the world of finance and all of the things that does to offer support. And then we have the campus, we have the trustees, and the facilities, and our facilities are fabulous. They offer support for the work of the church. We have a pastor and we have staff, and the work of the staff is not to be doing ministry, although we do ministry because we are part of the body, but it is to be facilitating. And if somebody says, "I have on my heart this thing that I want to do, but I really don't want to be compelled to have to write a letter for the newsletter, something, and I'm just not comfortable with that, I don't want to do that." Well, then that's when the staff comes in and says, "Well, let's talk. Let's just talk. Talk to me for about 15 minutes about this thing is that you're wanting to do, and I'll write that up for you." You see, that's now the support is coming. The staff is now coming in to support those who feel called to do ministry. And if you can imagine a tree, there's no perfect metaphor, but trees are living, and I do like thinking of us as a living body, as an organism. We've got this structure where we're branching out, and all the beautiful people, all the faces, the people of Christ's family are out in the world doing as they are called to do, praying with one another, crocheting baby blankets and giving them away, whatever it is, whatever that yes looks like. But what we want to do is connect the ministries to one another, and connect also to the staff, and connect also to the body, so that we might communicate with one another effectively, collaboratively, strengthen one another, affirm one another, but also that we might reach beyond our walls and, into the world, because our mission is to make new disciples for Jesus Christ, which means we need to be getting that message out. We need to grow as disciples, and we need to share the good news with others. We need to touch the lives of those who do not yet know and have not experienced the love of God we know in Christ. That's the mission of this congregation, to make new disciples. So all of this is just about pursuing that. And it's always nuanced, and it's always a work in process, which means your voice and the conversation matter very much. That's why this conversation matters, and that's why the conversations will continue. When we are fully on the other side of our opening, I'm imagining quarterly get-togethers where we just get together and talk about what's going on so that we are better. Because I'm involved in many, many conversations. Sometimes, in my imagination, we're communicating better than we are. So we need to create those intentional moments where we really are in good conversation and communication. That's probably more than I needed to say tonight, but do you have any questions? Any questions at all? Back to you, Allison.
Can you say something about the discipleship piece Because we're not really getting into that in this meeting.
Yeah, we're going to be talking more about the activities. And today, we had a hospitality conference. We had so many good ideas that came out of that. But discipleship is about receiving information. It's about growing in faith. It's about deepening in our spiritual journey. It's about growth. It's about coming in, sharing the good news, introducing others to Jesus, and it's about growing, and then it's about, going into leadership and leadership development. And a lot of churches, we kind of come in already primed and prepped, and we kind of stay about here. There's a very shallow realm in which, in mainline Protestant churches, most of us kind of live. So what we want to do, as we are growing in our understanding of faith and discipleship, is the outreach, introducing people to Jesus, bringing them in, doing the introductory things, going deeper and deeper, leadership development. Stephen Ministry, which is coming to town, is an example in leadership development. We have Stephen leaders who will be going through training. And this hospitality, it's going to be very much the same. How is it that we can grow new leaders? And that expands our reach as well. So the disciples' journey is about the pursuit of deeper understanding. It's about growth spiritually, and it's about becoming stronger as a faith family. Yeah, okay.
I misspoke by saying that's not part of this. There are several of those aspects that were incorporated in the ideas that emerged in our last session. We want you to know that there's more to it than that, and that is evolving also in terms of classes and different age groups and all of that. So next slide, please. I'm going to do a little introduction. I think really, the more I read this book, the more I think maybe it should become a study at some point. So, Good to Great, how many of you have heard of that book, the original Good to Great? It's a fabulous book about how good companies get to be great companies, written with lots of examples, lots of research behind it, written by Jim Collins. Well, this book is good to great in God's eyes. And the fellow who wrote the book, Chip Ingram, he got the idea after his church and their staff did a study of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, to do something with that topic, but in the sense of what does it mean for the church. So I was just going to give you a little introduction specifically about his part on dreaming great dreams. Chip Ingram was a pastor in Santa Cruz, California, grew a fairly small church, had some radio ministry and did well with it. But over time, he felt the call and the dream to do something else. And to make a long story short, eventually, in 1996, and I believe he still is doing this today, he became the head person, whatever that's called, executive director of Walk Through the Bible Ministries. Has anybody ever heard of that organization? You should raise your hand. Bob, I mean. It's actually a program for churches and ministries. We attended Walk Through the Bible as a program in overview of the whole Bible in a weekend, and got all these resources, and it was a great orientation, overview of the Bible. That was many, many years ago. I don't even think Chip Ingram was with them at that point. But they're still going strong, and it's a great organization. And so this book, he shares some of what he's learned over the years about dreams and how to be great for God and those kinds of things. So we'll listen to a little excerpt, about a 2-minute video.
Hi, my name's Chip Ingram, author of Good to Great in God's Eyes. It's a Baker book, and it's published by the Baker Publishing Group. You know, if that title rings a bell and you're thinking to yourself, you know, I've heard that title before, and the name Jim Collins, you know, Good to Great, that classic business book. Well, you know what? With no apology, that book had a radical impact on my life. And here at Walk Through the Bible, I've taken our leadership team through that book. And as a pastor, I read that book. And what I learned was there are certain practices that great businesses use. I mean, there's practices that made them great. And one night I remember sitting next to the fire, and I couldn't sleep, and I'd been reading that book, and what caught me was the paradigm. It was the thought that there are certain habitual practices that we as individuals have, and we all have them, that turn good people into great people. And then I thought to myself, you know, we all want to be great. I mean, I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great husband, and I've longed to be a great pastor. I mean, I don't want to be an average dad. But even to say that out loud felt kind of uncomfortable. And then I began to pray and think, and over about a 2.5 year process, I began to study the scriptures and look in the rearview mirror of my life and the greatest Christians I've met. And I said, what are their practices? And I learned that great Christians think great thoughts. Great Christians pray great prayers. They dream great dreams. They take great risks. They empower great people. And I came up over a period of time, and I began to teach them and then get feedback and learn and grow and see how they would help people. And God gave me a package, if you will, to put 10 practices that great Christians have in common. And these have been helpful for executives, housewives, and I even did it with a high school group. And what I found is people want strong, biblical, relevant, practical ways, whether you're a baby Christian or an adolescent Christian, or whether you're a mature Christian, you say to yourself, you know, everyone around me thinks I'm making great progress, but am I really great in God's eyes? This is a paradigm, a practical set of tools that wherever you're at will take you from where you're at to the next level. They're biblical, they're sound, and to be honest with you, I look back, I've practiced about 9 out of 10 of these for the past 25 years, and I'm still in process. But I look at the men and the women that have shaped my life, the men and women that shape Scripture, and I'm going to come to the end of my life, and I'm going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ. And it really won't matter what other people thought of me. It's going to matter what Jesus thinks of me. These 10 practical principles are absolutely critical. And you can do them in a small group, you can do them with a mentor, and you can start right where you're at. And God will help you learn to pray great prayers. He'll help you learn to dream great dreams, to empower great people, to literally make great sacrifices, and take these practical steps to see God work in your life like never before. I think you'll enjoy the book, and I think God will use it in a significant way, the way He has in my life.
So that's a little overview. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so he talks about the 10 practices that great Christians have in common, and those make up the chapters in his book. So think great thoughts, read great books, pursue great people, dream great dreams, and that's what we're going to focus on tonight. Prayers, those are the first 5. Next slide, please. Sorry. And then the 5 are take great risks, make great sacrifices, enjoy great moments, empower great people, and develop great habits. Those are the next slide. focusing on the dream chapter, probably for obvious reasons. And there are a couple of quotes in that chapter that I think are very striking. It doesn't matter if you're 7 or 70 or 80 or 90 or whatever. I put that in. Your heart should be captivated by a vision of how to serve God and accomplish something for his kingdom. And then the second one, I think this one is also really great and a great reminder too. God delights to do impossible things through improbable people to impart exceeding grace to undeserving recipients. Anybody know anyone that God has done that for? I'm asking for your participation. Do you know anyone that God has done that for? They're all over the Bible, for one thing. Start with the disciples, go back to Abraham, go back to Moses. So he delights to do impossible things through improbable people to impart exceeding grace to undeserving recipients. So that's us too. He delights for those things for us as well. Next slide, please. So, how do great dreams come about? He says there are 4 things we need to believe: that God is able, that God desires success for our dreams, that he has promised, and I have a number of scriptures that go with that, and he invites us to dream. So when we have a dream, big or small, the dream may come out exactly the way we dream it. That happens sometimes, but more often than not, God refines the dream as we are obedient and take baby steps and along the way. So, but God is able. The goal is not fulfilling your desires, but God does want our desires to be fulfilled. If we put our focus on what he's asking, what he wants us to accomplish, there will be fulfillment for us as well. That may take time, but it will come about as well. Ingram calls these dreams sanctified, God-honoring dreams. Now, obviously, we know that there are people who have had big dreams for ill purposes, and somehow were able to accomplish them. Those were not God-sanctified dreams, and that is not really what he's talking about. Next slide, please. So he talks about several principles and gives an example for each one. For example, God commands us to step out of our comfort zone. And the example he gives is Abraham. Before God could start making the dream happen, Abraham had to be willing to get out of his comfort zone and go someplace where he didn't know where he was going or why, right? So that's one principle. I won't do all of these. How about Paul? God clarified Paul's calling in a time of crisis and failure. He was a murderer, but the Savior came to him, and ultimately Paul changed the world on behalf of Christ, who he had condemned as a bad person. But God changed his heart, and he became a big dreamer. Of course, we can always talk about the disciples as well. They were certainly very ordinary, but they turned the world upside down. Mostly after Jesus was crucified and risen. They turned the world upside down for Jesus, spread the gospel all over most of the known world on behalf of a man who was born in a stable and crucified on a cross. If God can't, if that's not an example of God sanctifying and fulfilling dreams, I can't think of any better ones. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to talk about this in a minute, and I'm going to give you a chance to just write down some thoughts that you might have. But first of all, I want to give you one scripture reference from John 14, and you'll probably recognize those verses, 12 to 14. Jesus says, "Whoever believes in me, the works I do, he will do also. And greater works will he do." What's the one condition? It says it a little later in the chapter, actually chapter 15, that we believe and abide in him. We trust him. That doesn't mean we don't work with other people, but we look to God to guide us in our dream work, and it's coming to fruition. So we can start small. It takes time to learn the art of dreaming, and everybody has different seasons in their life. But where do we start? We start with the small steps, and then we can go from there. So right now, I'm going to give two examples of, well, I'm not giving them. We're going to have two examples of how somebody might have a dream or a desire to do something in ministry for the church and for our outreach or mission, and how that could come about. So the first example is a little bit of a role play that Pastor and Bob Buck are going to do. So please come up front. And can we get Bob a microphone? Thank you.
Better? Better? Can you hear me? Okay. Pastor, I think I would like to be part of a small group that does basic home repairs for people in the church neighborhood or other members of the congregation.
Well, that's great, Bob. Tell me more.
Well, I think I have some skills in this area, and since I've retired and I'm really bored with my life, I think it's time for, me to do something to help some other people. Do I need to have to be on the trustees in order to do this? I just want a few others to join me and do the repairs. I don't want to be on a ministry team and go to meetings.
No, you do not have to be a member of the trustees. You do not need to go to their meetings to say yes to this mission and ministry.
but I need their permission to get this going, don't I? Or do I need to make a proposal to the governance board?
Neither one. There might be a few exceptions, but we're already a permission-giving church. If it is consistent with our mission, if it helps people love, grow, serve, or connect, you can do it. We would just ask that you connect through our staff, through ministry leads, and that will help to communicate and keep you in connection with what we're doing here. It also allows us to help you as you enter into your vision.
Gee, since I'm a member of the staff, I guess I got it made then, huh? Are there any funds that are going to be needed for this?
Well, we have different pools, Bob, that we can go to. But the main thing we're going to do is figure it out. You are in connection. That is the nature of who we are. We want to help you say yes to God. We want to help you repair the houses and the homes of our neighbors and our congregants. So you bring your vision to us, and we start brainstorming and figuring out how it is that we will move forward in this.
Cool, and I don't have to join the trustees, right?
You do not have
Oh,
to
good,
join the
okay.
trustees, although you're missing a
I've been
golden
there and done that,
opportunity.
you know, I've been there and done that. That sounds good. I'll get in touch with some folks and sign up, get people to sign up on the list with ideas. If there's any other people out there who might be interested in working with me, please come see me.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
I told them, particularly him, that he could ad-lib, so he did. Yeah, that's a great example of how we're envisioning. You know, nothing's all figured out yet. That may be a little uncomfortable for some people, but this is developing organically, and we will have designated staff and ministry teams for each type of dream that might come up. But that's one way that something can happen. Ingram actually gives a very similar example in the book of someone who has a Down syndrome child, and there are no programs in the area, and she wants somebody to do something. And so she ends up doing what they do in their church. She writes it down, she prays about it, she enlists a few other people, and they start a program and open it up to not only kids associated with their church, but outside the church. So that's one way something can happen. Another way is if you know or you've heard, hey, I know they need someone to do something like fill in to mow the lawn occasionally, or proofread the newsletter, or any number of things. And even if you haven't heard anybody ask for that, if it's a skill and a gift or a talent that you're willing to share, we have started a little list so that, not to say next week it's going to be needed, but when or if it is needed, you will be on the list, and we know already some people to call on without just making a blanket appeal. So we've done a lot with Myers-Briggs already here, but that's one of the things I've done that I'm certified in. And so maybe I would put down that, you know, if the church staff or preschool staff, I've done it for them too, if they want to do that and learn from that for their organization and themselves individually, then that's something that I can help with. So I'm sure there's always something. According to, now I'm back on. So that's another way, is just, we'll keep this list going. We'll promote it more so that people will know how they can put down. I know we have, I happen to know who they are only because they did a lot of the work when we landscaped the new building, but we have some people here who have helped with landscaping in the past. It can be spiritual, it can be practical, you know? So that's another way, and I'm putting the list up tonight. We'll have pens. If you want to write your name on there and something you can share, it's not a commitment. It's not saying we need it right away, but then we'll have a record of it, and we'll keep doing that. Okay, another way, and there's probably others as well, but another way is, for an example, the mission team that does mission dollars, mission service. There are some items on the list that was created that we're going to talk about. And we probably aren't going to take them all on, but I do know for a fact that there is interest among the members of the team in doing another, at some point, Africa rainwater harvester for people in Africa who we have a connection with that don't have running water. So I actually wrote it into the list as wanting to help with that, and then I put, who else would like to join us? So if there's someone who's interested in that project or would like to help when we do it, you don't have to join the ministry team. You can just say, hey, I'll help when y'all do that. So that's another one. And there's probably lots more. That's all that came out of our brains recently. So at this point, I want to see, first of all, if you have any questions or any comments you'd like to make before we actually do some things. Oh, yay. There's at least one child in the nursery. Anybody have a question? Great idea, confusion, anything. Okay, so we have some 3x5 cards up here. And just for a little bit of reflection and thought, again, you're not turning the cards in, you're not making a commitment. Think about something, the way he does it in the book, you do it for personal, you do it for work, you do it for everything, but we're just going to do it for ministry with the church. Think about something, can be a little dream or a bigger dream, that you might feel a heart for, that God is calling you to help with. Write it down. Take a few minutes to pray about it. And then we'll just let you hold on to those and continue to reflect, and maybe you'll have others as well. This is for you. But if you were actually going to share it tonight, which we'll give you an opportunity to do, then the next thing would be kind of like the example with Bob, is to look for a few other people, connect, communicate with the listed staff liaison or ministry team for assistance and resources, and then make your plan and move forward. So what we're going to do is this little personal reflection, and then I've taken the whole list and made little boards out of each page so that you can come up and look at everything that's on there. And there's a place, we don't have the staff and ministry team liaisons written in. At some point, I hope that we can have them out on Sunday morning and let people respond to them as well. But if you're interested in something, why are we doing it this way, where you have to come up and walk around? First, it's good exercise. Second, it gets you talking to other people, and it also, if you're all writing on the same sheet, you know other people that are interested in the same things you are. So there's going to be 9 to walk around and look at, and if you don't feel like writing on any of them tonight, that's okay. But we hope that some of you will put your name down as being interested in something. Are all of these things going to have somebody take them, like in the next 6 months or a year? I don't like to guarantee anything, but my guess would be no. Nor would that be good, to try and do everything at once. But the things that really speak to people's hearts, that they may have heard other people talking about, that they see how it welcomes our neighbors or provides outreach in our community, those kinds of things, the ones that really resonate will rise to the top. Did you want to add anything, Cynthia?
I don't think so. There's a facilitator I like a lot, and when she's talking to communities, she asked 2 questions, and she asked them because very often we talk ourselves out of our big dreams.
Yep.
And the 2 questions she asked them first is, if you had a magic wand, what one thing would you do? What one thing would you change? If you had a magic wand. And then the next question she asks is, if you had a couple of people who would go with you or who would help, what would you do? So maybe that helps as you think about dreaming dreams and what it is that you might be interested in doing. And maybe you're already doing it. But maybe there are ways that you can imagine that work that you are already doing might evolve. So let's put that out there also. Thank you.
So we'll take a few minutes for that, just quietly, and I'll call you back. I can't get out of here. Oh, what do you think, about 7 minutes? I put some cards up. you don't have to be finished with this. Just hold on to it and continue to pray and think about it and think about what we're doing here. We'd like to have a little conversation at this point. If anybody wants to share what is on their heart as a dream, you're welcome to do that. Anybody? Yes, Rick. Oh, wait for the microphone. Yes, you do. Nice try.
Work that we've been doing in Mexico, we're trying to figure out what to do next, what the next right thing to do. Generally raises its head in front of us, and it smacks us in front of like a 2x4, what we should be doing, I guess. And other times it's not obvious at all. But we've got facilities down there that we've been supporting, hopefully building a garden, hopefully building a well to support them. But there are programs that I'd kind of like to see happen between our youth here and their youth over there. I think it would be kind of neat to do that. We've got two things in common. None of our congregations are very big, so it's kind of growing from the ground up, which means we can see nothing but results, I guess, because there's nothing happens beforehand. I'm rambling now.
So did I understand you to say? Garden and with the well, you are curious about the possibilities of having the youth who are in Mexico, is that correct?
Yes, they've got a congregation there at our little church, Adonai, Iglesias Adonai, and there's a couple dozen kids that are in the congregation.
Mm-hmm. And then you're
that
thinking...
are of age that can be directed, perhaps, about the age of our kids.
Okay.
A nice little range, but very small. It's a small group, so they're looking for things, I think, to do. And I know that Becky Williams has got lots of things to do, but something different may... I'm going to be proposing it to her, or just giving her an idea of what is on my mind. I guess she's the person to talk to about that.
Okay, and this is, yes, so you're thinking already in terms of talking to Becky Williams, who's in charge
Yes.
of our youth, and then we would want to come in around that, and because we're now talking an international mission, if we're talking, just south of the border, but it still becomes international with Mexico, and then our youth from San Antonio, and I think that's filled with exciting possibilities, and I think that the conference would be very interested in working with that also. So this is an example of the idea coming out, and then we talk about it out loud, and then we say, how can we get behind, how can we resource this, how can we make this possible? One of the strengths of the United Methodist Church is we are connectional. So not just connected here in our house, but we are connected, through a conference, which is thought quite a lot about, the very kind of thing you're thinking about. So thank you for bringing that up. Let's not let it drop. Let's keep the conversation rolling, and let's see what will manifest. Thank you.
Yeah, we actually had a little phone conversation with the mission team about the well, particularly the garden is, I don't know how far along it is, but it's starting. And it may not be enough, but we're going to start with May Mission of the Month will be for the well for them. And they're doing all the homework on their side in Mexico to make sure that it is done right and that it will last. So, great, thank you. This one was given to me to read. It's actually one of the items on the list. So this person is saying it's something she wants to help with. I mean, you saw her bring it up here, obviously, it's Marcy. So her dream is for a support group for people who have experienced emotional abuse of various kinds. And that may not be a problem that individually some of us identify with, but that's probably a need. I don't have the statistics on it, and I know it's something important that Marcy really feels could help people. Anything you want to say about that? Yeah.
Sure. I think that those things that are near and dear to our heart are often things that we have very close proximity to. So in my house, I don't think it would be a surprise to anybody that I say that wouldn't it be great to have a support group for the partners whose spouses, whose close family members are struggling with various forms of degenerative neurologic conditions like dementia. You know, how can we support those? Everything we do is missional, all right? Everything that we do is missional. There's a doorway, there is a window, and there are people who are yearning, who are yearning just as we wonder and yearn also for support, encouragement. Support groups were one of the very large categories of suggestions that emerged out of our last time together.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a very powerful way, not only for us to be meeting the needs of our own congregation, it's a very powerful way for us to meet the needs of our neighbors, those who are in close proximity, be it through KDO preschool or just up and down the street here. So that's something that we should spend some serious time thinking about. And you who have endured and survived and learned some tricks, your voice in the conversation, would be very, very welcome. So don't ever underestimate any life experience. That is a gift you have. That
Don't
is a gift that
underestimate
you
what? I'm sorry.
do not underestimate any life experience.
Yeah.
Your military service, your time in the classroom, the fact that you like to talk on the phone. I was talking to somebody earlier today and explaining to them how I do not like to talk on the phone, but this very dear friend of mine who used to be in charge of hospitality, and at her church what that meant was get the ladies to bring what needs to show up for potluck, okay? And she went through this process that took a few days, and she would talk on the phone for hours. And I said, Jana, you can do this on the computer. We could do sign-ups. There are so many. She said, no, you do not understand. Elise is going to bring the green Jell-O casserole with cottage cheese and pineapple no matter what. I know that's coming. And Mildred's going to bring the carrot cake. It's really not about that. But when I talk, and she always answered her phone, I'm here. I'm here. Her phone rang all the time. I'm here. She loved to talk to her ladies, she called them, and her ladies desired deeply to have Jana's ear. That was her ministry, right? She was a lifeline for a lot of people, a lot of women who were very alone in the world otherwise. So maybe you think, I don't really have anything or I don't have time, but that is an example of somebody who was able to give a handful of hours, on occasion or once a month, was absolutely the presence of Christ in the life of others. We don't think of it that way very often. So please, think about what your joy is, what you enjoy, and what you've learned from life, and how that might be life-saving and life-giving for someone else. That's mission.
One of the people on Facebook brought up a widows group.
A what?
Widows group,
Widows group?
which would be a widow or a
Widows
widower's
group, yeah.
I think that's on our list, and so if that person wants to help with it, we can put our name on it, or maybe someone will pick that one up. So, anyone else right now? Benita?
I'm not sure exactly what it might look like, but I'm feeling like, and it was really reinforced with the hospitality training that we attended earlier today. We need to, I believe, establish more of an online presence in the form of a blog, and I don't know, again, exactly what that might look like. I've got a lot of ideas in my head. I think a schedule could be established where different people might be able to commit to doing different things, like putting a question out there and then other people answering, putting out some just interesting little tidbits. I look at the website at Concordia University where I work, and they have a really good blog going on their website. And there's something new out there almost every day. Some of them are contributions by faculty, administrators. If there's nobody contributing, there's a lady who manages all this, who writes something herself. It could be helpful tidbits, it could be history, it could be trivia, it could be a devotional, it could be a variety. It's just all different kinds of things. But they have something new out there during the week almost every day. And I mean, I've actually gotten to where I want to go look and see what they put out there new every day. And after today, going through the training, they've reinforced how the online presence and how that church is connected with people all over through this means.
Yeah.
So that is, I guess, my dream of what I think I want to get involved in and help us be able to do.
Great. And it's on the list because probably you came up with it last meeting. So you can put your name by that and see who else wants to join that. But yeah, that's what makes people look at your online material more frequently. Things like that. So, Shivi?
The person that asked for the widows group said she would love to lead it, so you can put Kay Talbot's name by that.
Okay, great. We'll find that page and put that down. That's awesome, Kay. She's online. So at this point, what we'd like to do is have you look at the whole list and see if there's anything you want to write your name by. You've received the actual list before, and there's some extra copies back there. I'm going to run through real quick on the slides. Exact same thing, just a little bit more abbreviated, but we're not going to lose what we have. And then I'm going to let you walk around. There's 2 there, 4 sheets there, and 3 over there, and look at those pages. It'll be the same thing as what you've seen before and what's going to be up here. And put your name by 1 or don't, or 3 or 10, or no, not 10. But that'll be our first opportunity to have people actually sign to the list. And this is another thing you can look at if you want to put, okay, I have a talent or a skill in cleaning toilets or whatever. And then if we need someone to do that, we know to contact you. Yes?
Okay, this is where we start. After this evening, this is where we begin. We have ministries that are up and running. We have remembered fondly ministries that once were but are not now. And we have put out some aspirations, like an international youth, whatever that would become, or the blog. So whatever we come away with tonight, that's where we begin. The door is closed on nothing, but we start with where we are. So,
Right.
so it matters. It matters what you do this evening, in terms of putting your name down if this is something you feel God is calling you to do.
And you are here on the cutting edge.
There you
Just a couple of things about what you'll see when you look at the boards that is not on the original list. One, there are some blank rows in case there's a new idea. We're not closed to new ideas. We'll never be closed to new ideas. Two, I used an asterisk to indicate if it was something we've done in the past that somebody said, we'd like to see that come back. There are some things that people had as ideas for into the future that we also did in the past, so they kind of fit both categories. I left off the items that we're currently doing because there's really no, first, there wasn't enough space. Secondly, there's really nothing new there. I mean, it's what we're doing. We're not going to lose sight of it. Those are things we'll continue to do, like the weekly prayer meeting and things like that. So, Shivi, would you just take a minute with each slide and then flip to the next? This is in the same order as the list itself that we summarized and produced after our meeting last month. So the first area is what we're calling family life and our space. So these are the items that are in that. Church directory, a security plan, expand the safe gathering certification. So like, I need to put my name on that one because I've been saying for 6 months I'm going to do it. If I put my name on it, then I'll do it. So regular church work days, increase dollars. What that really means is not to pay the media team, I don't think that was the idea, but to provide, to provide more hardware, software, bring us up to date, things like that.
But you should put people by that too, because we need people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when you see that idea, I can't remember all this, but when you see that idea, add and people. And then just general freshening up the campus. Next one. This one's the witness communication outreach, updates, improve the website. Let's see better over here. Improve and better utilize existing tools, rebuild the communications team, new tools, become a 5-star church, a more active Facebook page. There's the blog on Facebook or the website, and classes about how to learn to share our faith. And the categories are just helpful to put things somewhere. It doesn't mean that it has to stay there. Lighting the path, fellowship and community. I have 2 areas, invitation and welcome, welcome bags. This is and follow up with both visitors and or guests and new members. And that's definitely something we have done in the past. Hospitality and connection, Wednesday night. Some of these things kind of go together and can be combined, but I didn't want to lose anything. Family night, third day cafe, something like midweek manna, for a family devotion, whatever night that is, Wednesday. Classes, the church picnic. A lot of people brought up suppers for 8. I don't know when the last time was that we did that, but people really did like it. And a gospel sing or potluck. Next, please. This is more hospitality and connection. Next, please. Outreach. This area at all age levels is one of our biggest. And all of these ideas were produced, if not by you personally, then by somebody else that attended that meeting last month or called us later or spoke to me afterwards or whatever. That's how they got on the list. We didn't make them up. After-school care, programs for children, Fiesta Bible Camp, which we did in the past, Scouts, an evening Bible program. This is all related to children. Singing at schools, the Rose Garden mentoring, tutoring on Zoom, some kind of a summer program. The idea was to do something once a week. And Wednesday night homework help. All possibilities. Next, please. The youth, again, tutoring, scouts. I'm not totally sure what that third one means, but maybe we can figure out who put that one, youth outreach on campus. Young adults, I should have put a star by that too, because we at one time had a college age group. That's on there, and then family night, kids night, dinner and a movie, which would be congregation as well as inviting the neighborhood. Next, please. Holy moly. Outreach. This is just general, all those things. More local community, missions, service, and dollars, and that's where the rainwater harvester is. A volunteer workforce to cut grass for the neighbors, national night out in the neighborhood, a community prayer board where people in the neighborhood could leave prayer requests, a 24/7 library extension box like they have over by the dog park, an emergency food bank, exercise classes, Christmas shoe boxes for the homeless, and Operation Christmas Child, which we have done in the past, and at least that portion, missions does want to do that this year. Game night, book clubs, and host various community events. Week of the Young Child, Christmas carol singing, pumpkin patch, which we did for 10 years in the past, and the live nativity. Next, please. Is there more? These are the support groups that were named. That's what Cynthia meant. Grief support, divorce, marriage enrichment, support groups for, you can read it better than me, dementia support, singles. I don't think specifically widows is on that list. So we can add it. Unless it's part of grief. Oh, yeah, that could be a grief support group. Widows and widowers, or whatever the person is interested in. Is there more? That's the last, I think. Health and well-being, again, I guess exercise classes got duplicated. Work with Methodist Healthcare. This may be a moot point for right now, but it could come back around when we all have to start having yearly boosters. Work with Methodist Healthcare Ministry to actually be a COVID vaccination site. As far as sites other than stores in Universal City, I don't know of any. Shirts, the city has one. So that was an idea. And then if not that, then transporting people, which we have done some of that already. The care ministries raise funds for meals and books for those that need care. And then the Stephen Ministry program, which is in the works.
Allison, if there is interest in the vaccination, I can get in touch with the district office, and we could become a host site for vaccinations
Cool.
if there's still a need and if there's interest.
Okay.
So if there's some interest, all people have to do is say, check that out, Cynthia, and I'll make that phone call tomorrow.
Great. That was that even, thank you, Shivi, that even, and they are our church members as well as others, volunteer. Yes.
I've been away for quite a while.
Can you take your mask off so we can hear you? Thank you.
Yeah, I've been away for quite a while, and I came back. I saw this big plan, and I get to listen to tonight. It's overwhelming. We have so many. I don't know how many. If we look at each plans in each field, there's a whole lot of things. So here I am, I'm coming back to see where's God.
Mm-hmm.
Where's God in all this, what is we have in our heart and in our mind? And where that God would like us to start with, that we can actually focus on what God's heart has to start with, because this is a whole lot of, I don't think we can do it right now with all those that we have put in the plan. We don't have enough people, not just that, but we don't have enough knowing where God stands. What does He want us to do? And how He would like us to do. And that probably have to come back to see our relationship with God. How much do we know Him? And how much we need to know Him? And how much we have to also work out in our own spiritual life. So basically, whatever we wanted to do, the foundation is who we are, how we are, and where is God, what is His plan. So I think maybe where I am now is very much on strengthening each one of our spiritual journey, so we can really see the center and the key of whatever we want to do has to do with God's intention in our life, in our situation. We can be very good on all this program. We can do it, we have the desire, but we miss that connection with God, where He is. And maybe that's where I am. And I would like to focus on that, I think, in order to put it in a balance. It's not just we rush and go forward to do all those very technical, very details, and it's a lot of demand. Each program I can see a lot of needs, and we can't really hold them together. And so where do we start? I think maybe to look at where we want to start with and how we're going to start with, and where God is at the center of whatever we were going to do. And otherwise, I don't know, maybe we need to spend more time on our foundation as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm not hearing very well tonight. Lenny or Cynthia, would you like to comment on anything that Ming said?
And I'm going to confess the same thing. That's why I came back here. I was having a hard time understanding. I'm sorry. I was having a hard time understanding. Lenny, were you able to?
No, but I have hearing aids, remember, and they don't always
Was there
work.
anybody who was picking up this last conversation?
I heard two things that you said that I think are critical considerations in anything we do. And one is that God has to be at the center of everything we do.
Yeah.
And the second is we have to recognize that our manpower resources are limited. And so we have to be smart and innovative in how we use our people to contact others and pray for growth.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
I think we do a lot of horizontal at our level, you know. I think it's pretty good and very clear what we want to do at this horizon. But then the vertical relationship with God, because that's what we want to do. And yet, maybe that link is not strong enough, not kept. And we need to do that. And that probably have to do each one of our own spiritual life, where we are. We are not just working from the human perspective, but it's very much.
I don't know if you had a chance to watch the hospitality workshop earlier. I didn't get to be at all of it, but the session that I was at this morning talked about the very simple message of love your neighbor. Love your neighbor. Love God with your whole heart and soul, and love your neighbor. And the church that sponsored the workshop had done a lot with that. I think that central message is what grounds all of it vertically and horizontally if we're doing it right. So, I think you bring up good points, and thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. At this point, well, one thing I want to say that he mentions in the book is that our dreams are not too big for God. We sometimes talk ourselves out of them or decide it's too unusual or too hard, and some things, the time is not right. So not everything we come up with is necessarily going to find a path forward right at that moment. But we do have to think bigger, dream bigger, pray bigger. God in the center, definitely, of everything. And not just depend on our own abilities. That this is a community, we want to invite more into the community, and it's going to evolve. It's not finished. It's barely beginning. Well, we've been doing things for years, but we're generating something new at this point. So I've reviewed them. You've seen a list, maybe multiple times. At this point, I'd like you to walk around and look at those individual pages. There's 3 boards over there, 4 boards here, and 2 more there. And there's a pen with each one. And if you like colorful, there's markers instead if you want to sign your name to something. You don't have to, but it's a good opportunity to get up and gather around one of them, maybe a few people at a time, and you may end up in a good conversation. And after we do that, we're going to pretty much end for tonight. There's only so much you can do in one night. So before we do that, does anybody have any comments or further questions?
I can clarify the youth outreach on campus for you, because that came from the youth themselves, is to do the activities here on campus It's fun to go somewhere once a month, but they want like a weekly here on campus, then the neighborhood kids could come in.
Oh, okay.
That's what they mean by the youth
Thank
outreach on
you.
campus.
Thank you.
But that came from the kids.
We can write that up so it clarifies, and that's good. Great. And then there's list up here too. So go on a walk, folks. The people in the sanctuary are going around and looking at the list, seeing if they want to sign up for something that they'd like to help with, or share a skill or talent that they have. If you're online and you have something you want to share, put it in the comments and we will incorporate it with what we've got. Okay? Thank you. Thanks. Okay, we're going to let our online folks say goodnight. We have nothing more to show you tonight. We're finishing up in here with the lists, and thank you for attending. And And we hope to have another conversation in another month or two. Thank you.